This is Charlie Parsons for Boxing Social in association with William Hill and Empire Fight Store. Before we start, Frank, I'm going to ask you to take a little step this way. Thank you very much. Frank Smith, how are we, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good, thank you. Smart today. Has Emily still dressed you? Or?
No, I dressed myself. What are you wearing today?
NBA jersey, mallet joggers, some 90s, little Stoney number.
What team is that?
Toronto Raptors.
I love the Raptors. Good.
Favourite player?
They're forward.
He's good, he is.
Drake.
Yeah, Drake's good, yeah.
Toronto,
He is from Toronto.
Is he a Toronto Raptors fan?
I don't know.
Don't we have to find out?
Away from this and the clothes thing that all the hardcores are going to absolutely hate every video now, how is everything?
Good, mate. All good. Good to be here in snowy Liverpool.
Busy?
Never. Not me. Retired.
The card, was there any ever doubt that you may have to pull it when Callum Smith fell off?
Look, the focus for us was always to keep the fight the show going. The boxers have worked a long time, worked very hard to get ready for Saturday night, and we try never to pull any shows. We did it. We had the same thing when Lara was supposed to fight Wood the first time round. We kept the show up and running. It's important for us, for the fighters, that we keep them active. It's not ideal from a business perspective, but the key is, and we have to thank DAZN as well for their support, because a lot of broadcasters would say, no, main event's off, let's can that show. So, that's important for us. And you can't really win with boxing fans, because the main event comes up, everyone goes, it's not a good enough card. It's like, well, the cards change. Robbie Davis Jr. was supposed to fight Liam Parra. He had to withdraw from injury as well. So it's been a tough run with some things, with a number of pullouts, but we're glad we could keep the show up and running.
Let's talk a little bit about Conor Benn. Obviously come out and done the interview with Piers-Morgan. The reaction, I know Conor's not the most liked man by the British public at the minute, but people sort of saying that he's almost digged himself in a deeper hole. Just your thoughts on that?
I think it's very difficult for anyone who doesn't, none of us have ever been in a position like he's been in and what he's had to go through, and the public perception and, everything he's had to go through over these last 4 or 5 months. And I know Eddie's just walked in and Parsons basically wet himself.
Fucking hell.
The last 4 or 5 months, none of us can understand what he's been through. So, everyone's got a judgment on him. Everyone has a view on the way he's dealt with it. Maybe he hasn't dealt with everything the complete right way. Not defending him on that front, but none of us know what it's like to have... You're right.
I'm just making sure you're right in the centre.
All right. None of us know what it's like to go through the situation he's been through. So, and he's a 25-year-old guy. When I was 25, if you put me in his position, I probably wouldn't have dealt with it. Wouldn't have done everything completely the right way. The focus for him, he's been cleared for the test by the parties that were involved in the testing, by the people who matter have cleared him. He's never going... The reality is, I think, with Conor Benn, he's never going to be the public's favourite anymore, is the truth. They have a predetermined view now, regardless of what they've read, what they haven't read, what they've seen, and that is the reality.
Is what's come out, obviously the WBC hasn't really helped. I mean, Eddie, when I come to the office, it was so soon after the thing, he said, well, it's not a greatly written thing, and Conor sort of protested the egg thing and said, well, no, it's nothing to do with that. Obviously, we understand the mental struggles and it must be a hard time, but the public perception is there's 2 failed tests, he's guilty. They're not worried about that. Can you understand that?
Yeah, but the key is then, Charlie, is the people who are specialists within that field. Let's be honest, the WBC had nothing to gain to clear him if there wasn't if it wasn't a reality, right? For them, for boxing, so they've taken it away with independent medical advice for specialists within the field. Like I say, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't understand 90% of it. Just like if you read 90% of it, you wouldn't understand it because it's not the field you're in. They have employed experts within the field. They take it very seriously, drug testing, the WBC, and they've come to a conclusion. Conor, in addition, has had his own independent medical advisors who have also come to a conclusion. The key is, and the focus here is, Conor has been cleared to box. And, he, again, the detail of when you spoke to Eddie, obviously straight after it coming out, Conor's got his own other. Everyone wants to see every detail, but there's a lot of stuff that has to remain confidential between the parties involved, and they have seen it, and the people who determine whether he's clear or not have made that determination. So like, who am I to say? Like, if I'm just a general member of the public, I don't understand it, as in the intricate details of it. I don't understand it. But people who are specialists, who get paid fortunes to come up with these decisions, have come up with a decision. So we have to. It's like people have an answer but don't want to listen to the answer.
Is there an answer there, though? I feel like there isn't an answer yet. Obviously, he's got his reasons for not handing in the 280-page dossier to the British Boxing Board of Control. One of the things he said on the Piers-Morgan thing was about his pride, but away from that, I'm sure he's being advised not to for now because of the lawsuit that's ongoing. But there isn't much clarity for the public.
I mean, the clarity is that he's been cleared to box.
But the WBC's ruling was to do with the eggs.
I know, but still, that ruling stated that that he didn't. Whatever was there was not there for the reasons of performance enhancing, stated in there, correct? And he's been cleared to box. He's been cleared to fight. So that is the initial, immediate focus. He is cleared to fight, and that is what the investigation was around. Was what went on. They've come to their own conclusion. The British Boxing Board of Control stuff. Look, there's lots going on in the background between Conor that we can't go into too much detail. The way they dealt with certain things, they didn't deal with a lot of things very well. Conor feels a way about the way they dealt with him. And I can understand. So I can understand where he's coming from.
Misconduct charges, yeah.
So I can understand where he's coming from when they've never before acknowledged a test from another party. And now all of a sudden they change their tune. And then they try and fine him without actually having, a number of things. So it's hard for the public to understand because they haven't been through the whole situation.
Have you lost any faith in VADA after all of this? Not lost faith, but second-guess stuff a little bit more?
I think there's things that have come through that hopefully will improve the testing regimes, just across the board. And I think that is beneficial if there's things that can be improved upon out of this from the findings that have been found by specialists within the field. Again, not an expert. It's not what I get paid to do. With specialists within the field have come to these conclusions, and hopefully that improves testing moving forward. Then great.
June 3, you've been in Abu Dhabi recently. How close are we to seeing Conor Benn versus Manny Pacquiao? Conor Benn put out a thing on his story, had a little contract. He also tagged Sean Gibbons in it. Is this a reality now for June 3?
Potential, amongst other fights as well. There's lots of things being worked on for June 3, but it's one that's been discussed quite a lot. Manny Pacquiao and Sean Gibbons pushing quite hard, but let's see how things play out. I think in the next week to 10 days we'll have news on what that show is.
Is June 3 the definite 100% date for?
That's the date we have with Abu Dhabi, at the Etihad Arena.
Moving on, away from Conor Benn, Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul, Frank. Your thoughts on the whole thing? And Jake Paul's now come out and said that he had a wet dream 2 weeks before the fight and it messed up his testosterone and that's why his legs weren't right in the ring. Just your thoughts on it all?
I think he's just winding everyone up with the wet dream, to be honest. I bought it and watched it. It wasn't a great fight, was it? Let's be honest. If it was an 8-round...
Two novices, it was quite exciting.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if it was just an 8-rounder on one of our shows this weekend...
It's not, but that's the beauty of it, right?
That is the beauty. That's what's made it so great. But, look, I think rematch will be interesting. But neither... Tommy, you could tell that he's been boxing for many, many years, and that's what he used to get in the win, didn't he? He moved around the ring well and managed to keep Jake at bay. Jake was closing his eyes a lot, winging some punches in, but wasn't the highest level we've ever seen. But it wasn't. Why would we have expected anything more? And look, they did a great job. They sold it. Loads of people bought it who wouldn't traditionally buy boxing. And I think one thing I will say is that actually long term it's going to be beneficial for the sport of boxing because we're going to get a new audience in watching the sport long term. Fury-Usyk.
Fury camp have turned down a 60-40 split to the winner. there's more doubt than ever that this fight may actually not happen. What do you think of it all?
Yeah, I don't think it will happen, but it's a shame.
What do you make of the fact that do you believe it's a 50-50 fight?
I think sometimes to make the right fights, you have to give up. Like whether he believes he's worth X, he believes he's worth Y. Sometimes to make the biggest fights, you have to be sort of the bigger person and say, do you know what? This is the fight I want. I'm going to make a load of money. And if, he says so much, it's not about the money. So, look, I don't know. I don't think it will happen. I can understand the commercial argument of he's a little bit bigger, but then Usyk's been involved in major fights, major pay-per-view fights for the last 3 or 4 years, right? Last 3 or 4 years, whether it's Tony Bellew, AJ, etc.
Is there an A side in the fight?
I mean, one
commercially, obviously.
Commercially, yeah, but still, this is the two.
Look at the free belt.
Yeah, exactly. This is the two best in the world coming together, and it takes two to make the big fights, And he could go and have another fight against someone no one cares about, and he won't sell a lot of tickets, and he won't sell a lot of pay-per-views. It's just natural. If you're in a more intriguing fight, more people buy it, and that takes two people to get to that point, not just one of you. There is an A side commercially, but at the same time, like I say, Usyk has had big nights, whether it be Tony Bellew, whether it be the two AJ fights, etc.
Two more from me. Someone asked Deontay Wilder if he has any future working with Eddie Hearn in Saudi Arabia. Deontay Wilder said no. Eddie has spoke before about Abu Dhabi talks for Ruiz Wilder. Your thoughts when you heard those comments?
Yeah, look, I met Deontay Wilder myself a few weeks back.
But there must be some sort of conversation.
We had a conversation. Look, I think it's just good to have an open dialogue, if I'm honest. He was a nice guy. I spent a bit of time with him. And, at least have that dialogue for future opportunities. He's in a great position, free agent now, and he's got all the big fights at his hands.
Canelo versus Ryder. Canelo's been logged on BoxRec for Cinco de Mayo date, Guadalajara. That doesn't necessarily mean anything because fights can be logged on there before officially announced. Yeah, but it seems like that's the likelihood. Is how far are we away from getting contracts signed and that fight announced?
Hopefully next couple of days, but that's the fight.
Frank Smith, thank you very much, mate. Ooh, my hands are a bit clammy.
Ooh.
Cheers, mate. Top man.